Into industry news, we do have some good stuff here to finish off our episode today. So, in 1 year, you are going to need a real photo ID to travel domestically in the United States. So, be sure to get that. It's going to be on May 3rd of 2023 that you're going to need that. There's various things that you can do: a passport, traveler cards, defensive ID. There's several things that you can do. So, just be sure to get your ID so you're able to fly, 18 and older, of course. So, be sure you have that ready to go, and you're going to need that going into the future.
Yeah, nothing else. I can't really add anything else. The real ID is really important. I have to actually get on top of that myself. I'm not too sure how the process works with getting a real ID your driver's license real ID compliant. But I guess just go to your DMV, see what you can do about that. And we have 1 more year. So if you don't get it by May 2023, May 3rd, 2023, you won't be able to fly domestically or anywhere. So better get on top of that. All right. The next bit of news here, when we're going into industry news, is regarding the relationship between aviation and 5G. So 5G has been taking the country by storm. A lot of my friends, a lot of people around the U.S. have already gotten their cellular plans adjusted to 5G. They have those 5G plans. I personally don't have 5G right now, but who cares about that? We're here to talk about the relationship with 5G and aviation. So, for those that don't know, back in January, if you don't remember this, anybody watching, there was a big concern with the 5G cell towers and how they were affecting airplanes like the 777. A lot of 5G cell towers were set up nearby international airports, major airports like O'Hare and maybe LAX and JFK and stuff like that. And what would happen is that the 5G, I guess just the signals coming out of those towers, they would, have a negative, they would really be affecting the instruments on planes like the 777. They would interfere with the radios and stuff like that. I don't want to get too far in depth into the logistics or the real details behind what was going on. But in short, the 5G interference with the 777 instruments, it caused a lot of airlines that flew 777s to U.S. cities to suspend flights and cancel them. Like Emirates, for example, they were one. They're actually one of the only ones. Other airlines, I don't know what happened with them, but I do remember Emirates being especially affected. And I also remember being really worried because I was actually in Pakistan at that time, and I was reading all these articles regarding 5G and the 777s and flights being suspended indefinitely. And I was worried because I was actually supposed to fly the Qatar Airways 777 back to Chicago, and I didn't know what was going to happen with that. So I remember being especially worried about how that would affect the industry, but luckily it just some consensus was reached, and 777 operations to the U.S. are back to normal now. As far as technology goes with 5G, I'm not too well versed with it because I haven't looked into 5G too much myself. But Red River, if you want to go more in depth on the topic, feel free because I would like to know more myself.
Yeah, so it's a really in-depth topic that has a lot of connotation to it. 5G is just such a strong signal, and the wavelengths that just come out of the towers are so much more stronger that a lot of these aircraft that were developed previously just cannot quite take the amplitude of those signals, which is definitely, it's tough. And I mean, this is kind of one thing in technology that we're going to see going forward a lot is we're going to have a lot of mutual conflicts that could really affect the industry, whether it's cell phone signal towers or whatever technology they use for air traffic control signals. And I mean, you can go, it's a long list of things that could be affected, but we can go all the way back to the early days of how all this technology developed, and especially in the last 10 years, how much more it's developed. It's just crazy to see what it's turned into, and 5G is definitely going to have a huge impact on it. I mean, it's just crazy as a student pilot to see NOTAMs about 5G signals on the darn Stillwater Regional Airport NOTAMs list, which is just insane. It's a cell phone signal. Why would that be a notice to airmen? I mean, it's just... Oh, man, what can I say at this point? Again, aviation's been kind of bizarre lately, and that's kind of what we're going to anticipate to see coming. But It's absolutely crazy. I mean, there's so many ways to swing it. If you guys would like to see a full segment on that, let us know. But 5G is a topic that we go even farther, more in depth into. I mean, again, it's going to be ongoing issues. Thank gosh AS made it back safe and even got the fly 350 out of the deal. So that ended up working out pretty well, but nevertheless, it happens. And it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen going forward and if they'll have to draw the line going forward. And it's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens. Something a little bit more concrete news, though, is Embraer secures the first customer for the converted freighters on their Embraer ERJ-195s, which is really exciting. So the airline that's going to be doing it is a large leasing company, and that will be Nordic Aviation Capital, or NAC. It's going to be really excited that they're going to be converting up to 10 of those into freighters, which is very nice. The PF2, as it will be called, beginning in 2024. Really excited to see who will end up leasing these. I think Azul's going to be getting a portion of them, which is really nice. So Azul Cargo. Seems like a lot of these airlines are getting cargo, man. It's kind of sad to see that I'm growing up a little bit because I remember all these aircraft, 737s, A321s, Embraer 195s. These were all passenger aircraft, but now they're turning into cargo aircraft. So it's crazy to see how time's flying, but that sure is, and I'm sure AS can attest to that in various ways.
For sure. It's crazy to think of a Embraer 195 freighter. That's really interesting. That'll probably be like one of the first of its kind. I mean, what other regional jets do you see in freighter variants? I can't think of any.
You don't?
Can you think of any? Maybe there's some that are really obvious, but I can't think of any.
No, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
Maybe like I know there's like one CRJ2. There's a few CRJ200 freighters.
Yeah, Air Wisconsin. Yeah.
Yeah. There's one. There's
Outside,
a few in Mexico. Yeah.
I'm not no 700s, no 90s. I can't really think of any 145s and not even any 175s. So I think this is probably pretty much the first of its kind, which is insane.
I do remember there's like a few in Mexico from not is it Aeronaves, but they have Aeronaves like DC9s and MD80s or whatever. But there's some operator in Mexico that has like a few CRJ200 freighters, and there's IFL Group here in the U.S. that have I think one CRJ200 freighter. But either way, an E-jet freighter is a really cool concept. It's hard to imagine how that's gonna look like, but as you said, it is kind of sad to see these growing. You know, having grown up with all these planes, having come to that point where they're starting to be phased out, replaced by newer planes, and that these planes are going to be going into that cargo conversion. It makes us feel old, but that's life. What can you do about it? So moving into the next topic is a big airspace incident drama in Mexico City, where two Volaris A320neos, I think, were they both neos? I can't remember, but I do basically, they were both neos. Two Volaris 320neos were involved in I don't want to say near miss incident, but one A320 was coming into land at Mexico City from Mazatlan, domestic flight there, and it was coming in for runway 5 left, and then simultaneously, as it was being cleared to land, another Volaris 320neo, which was going to go to, it says here, it was operating for Volaris Costa Rica, so it was going to go. The article says it was operating the flight Mexico City, Guatemala, San Jose, which is weird because Guatemala is a country, so I'm assuming they meant Guatemala City and then to San Jose. But another Volaris 320neo was waiting to depart on the runway, and then at the last second, the crew of the A320neo coming into land, they aborted landing and did a go-around, which was good that it was caught. And apparently somebody filmed that incident too, but I have not seen the video at all, so I guess I should take a look at that because I'm curious to see how that played out.
Yes.
But it seems that it was kind of a ATC error or something like that. Definitely interesting. We've seen a lot of these near misses happen, not in the exact same way, but in similar ways. Like I think, certain ATC issues, like an Air Canada A320, I think landed on a taxiway at San Francisco a few years back, or was about to land on a I can't remember what exactly, but bottom line, interesting incident, and Red River. I'd love to hear your thoughts regarding this one as well.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane to see what's going on, man. I mean, it really doesn't how help, excuse me, obviously, as they've been having a lot of issues with the airspace as a whole, and now just to add this on top of it's insane. I mean, one principle that we've seen a lot is obviously for as many good things that go right, one good thing going wrong does not help, and this is definitely a prime example of it. So for all of those good ATC moments, one bad one. I mean, it's a very tough job, and there's no leadway. It's a number one safety job, so it's very unfortunate, but something happened, and hopefully improvement to come going forward. A United Express CRJ 200 stops on the grass after a Houston runway incursion, which is very unfortunate. So it was carrying 13 passengers coming in from Victoria, Texas on a short flight right there. And I guess there was just some sort of steering issue that caused the aircraft to not be able to steer off, and it just came to a stop in the grass. And just 13 passengers, so a very light load for the 50-seat CRJ 200, of course. Registration on that aircraft was November 965 Sierra Whiskey, which was a 2003 built SkyWest CRJ 200. This aircraft had 42,241 hours on it and 35,876 cycles, with the average stage length, so the average flight time was 1 hour and 11 minutes. So pretty solid stuff right there, and glad to see everybody okay, but definitely another very interesting event to say the least, as I'm sure AS would agree to that.
For sure, this is like one of the only incidents I've heard of regarding a United CRJ 200 doing sliding off the runway or doing a runway excursion. Because normally, as we all know, it's always been Envoy Air, CRJ 145 sliding off the runway in however way they can. But it's good. Nobody was injured or severely injured on this flight, and the damage doesn't seem too catastrophic. I mean, what do I know? I don't know much, but it doesn't seem like the plane will get written off. I'm sure it'll be returned back to service soon. So that it's good that it wasn't super serious, but then again, still pretty unfortunate that happened in the first place. As we approach the end of the episode, another topic that we have to cover here, really relevant to today. Europe will be soon dropping its mask mandate for air travel. Some countries, I know for a fact Sweden, I think it was Sweden, they recently, not even recently, a while ago, they actually dropped their mandate for certain flights or domestic flights within Sweden. Sweden or Norway, somewhere in Scandinavia, they dropped the mandate for flights within the country, which was, they were one of the first countries to do that actually. But now the European Union, they recently announced that wearing face masks will no longer be mandatory in European airports and on flights within Europe from next week, or from whenever this article was published, so 6 days ago. So maybe already by now the mask mandate has been dropped, so you don't have to wear masks in European airports and stuff. Which, I mean, you can look at it both ways. I mean, number one, it shows that the world is returning normal, because here in the U.S. we also had our mask mandate removed earlier in this month. And it was kind of weird to see that, traveling recently. So it's good to see stuff returning to normal, but at the same time, people have their own opinions regarding the pandemic, and cases have been going up more recently. They have been increasing lately. So, a big question is, will the mandates stick or will they be reinstated? Who knows? But what are your thoughts regarding that?
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic for sure. I guess just kind of domino effect. U.S. lets theirs go, Europe lets theirs go, and I'm sure we're going to see more to come as well. Like you said, cases are slightly rising, which is a little worrisome, and it's going to be interesting with the summer, of course. I don't expect many precautions to be took throughout the various countries, so... I think personally it's kind of one of those own deals that everybody suffers no matter what, so any person can take a precaution, but pretty much you have the other side of the spectrum where other people will not, and as a result of that, you're going to see everybody facing the consequence as not being able to do stuff or whatever you want to do. So not literally speaking, but kind of figuratively speaking, of course, that kind of is a big picture effect. So again, it's one of those deals. I think we're definitely making progress, but I still don't think we're out of the woods yet. But again, everybody has their own opinions on it, and I just hope for progression. I kind of want to get back to where we were. I think everybody's kind of in that ballpark trying to get back to where we were. So going to be interesting going forward, but definitely something to keep an eye on for sure. Last but certainly not least, a Blue Air Boeing 737 struck landing in Naples, Italy, hard enough to cause structural damage, which is really unfortunate. So this was Yankee Romeo Bravo Mike. This aircraft made a hard enough landing have structural damage on the fuselage. So it had a really bad tail strike on the landing, which was unfortunate. On May 6th, this aircraft was coming in from I'm not even going to try that airport. It's OTP. It was heading into Naples in southern Italy. Unfortunately, it struck really bad. Got some really nice scrapes and indentations in the fuselage, which was really unfortunate. So, the descent rate for this aircraft, I guess it doesn't say, but it was saying just talking about the parameters of it, but it didn't say the actual amount, which was unfortunate. So, going to be interesting to see what they do with this aircraft. I don't know if they'll necessarily write it off, but this aircraft entered service with Pegasus Airlines, ironically, as we talked about them in March of 2010, and Blue Air got it in December of 2017. So, it's been very interesting to see what's going on, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens going forward, but very unfortunate to see that 737 get some structural damages. I'm sure AS would agree to that.
Yeah, I mean, hard landings, especially those that cause damage to the plane, are no fun. I mean, we saw it recently, a little more than, not even recently, but when a United 757 had a pretty hard landing at Newark a while ago. It landed so hard that the nose gear got really damaged. There's like a big crack in the, I don't want to say crack, but the nose gear got especially damaged when that plane landed at Newark a while ago, and that airplane ended up being scrapped. So hopefully the Blue Air 737, hopefully it doesn't, reach that end of its life. Hopefully it'll get repaired and returned back to service. Because if it was a tail strike, the 737 has like the tail strike bump thing at the, on the back to, alleviate the impact of a tail strike. So hopefully the authorities can, get the, how do I say this? Hopefully the authorities can. Actually, the authorities won't have anything to do with
necessary actions.
Yeah, do take the proper actions, and hopefully their analysis isn't too harsh that it ends up, scrapping the airplane.
Agreed.
But I hope that plane will return to service. We'll see what happens, but it is an aircraft incident, and how it happened, that's that's a different story, but. It was unfortunate, and I hope the airplane will return to service soon, but we'll see regarding that. That's all I have to say regarding that topic.